So thank you everyone for coming today. I'll just start off by, usually I start off with a quick Zoom introduction, but some last two times we took a bit of a time, bit too long doing that. So I created a web page on our website that has all the resources and links. So whenever you need help with Zoom or anything, you can check out our website. So I'm just gonna go share my screen of the website and briefly go over that. Okay, so if you go to our website, which is emeriti.usc.edu, here's a website, and if you go down to here, how to use Zoom to connect with family and friends, and we go there. There are some links to help guide you through how to use Zoom. So for people who haven't downloaded Zoom onto your computer yet, you can follow these instructions here. And for each specific function within Zoom, there are Zoom. They have created mini 1-minute videos to go over each of these, and they're very good because they break down the very, very basic steps on, for example, how to join a meeting, how to schedule your own meeting, how to share your screen, how to record your meeting. And so all of these are very, very helpful. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can always contact USC ITS. They're 24/7. So unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to answer any difficult technical questions. But if you have any general questions, feel free to email us at emeriti@usc.edu. So again, this webpage is on our website at emeriti.usc.edu. And feel free to check out the Zoom website as well. They have a lot of videos in addition to these that teaches you more advanced Zoom topics.
Leanne, which one is yours? I know you did.
Oh yeah, I did one. It's a bit long, it's like almost 10 minutes. So, but I did a quick video on how to download and install Zoom. So
where is that on our website?
It's right here.
Ah, okay. Okay, that's great. And Sophia has been very generous with her time. And every once in a while, when there's one of our USC folks that needs additional help, she's been calling them on the phone and trying to help them out too. So this is just basic Zoom questions.
Right. And if anyone needs one-on-one help, we do have quite a few student workers. So if you would like help, one-on-one help, you can email us at emeriti.usc.edu, and then we'll just pair you up with a student worker who will help you one-on-one. Very helpful.
Leanne, before you move on, would you show on our website where we have the Trojan connections for our folks?
Did you post that?
Maybe, you know what? Maybe I didn't yet. Let's take a look.
I don't think we have.
Okay, so that's something that we've done that's just recently, so I will post that this afternoon. And that is an email that I sent out to all of you and our retiree friends, and is also posted, actually it's posted on the Student Affairs website under volunteers. And this is a way where we can make phone calls to one another. So we just randomly match our retirees and friends and students together. So you can either say you would like to volunteer to make phone calls, a phone call, not many, and to receive a phone call. So, so far we have a small group of people that would like to receive phone calls and are willing to make calls.
Oh, any questions? Great. Jeanette?
So you can unmute yourself and ask questions. It looks like Jerry's ready to ask a question.
Well, I'm sponsoring a Zoom session next Friday with the RFA board. And I'm concerned if I have one or more members who are not using their @usc.edu email anymore, maybe they started using Gmail after they retired, will that create a problem for their getting admitted?
No, not at all. But since you are using the USC version, not the free version. So any of you that have the free version and you're not using the USC version, then it's not going to be a problem, except you're going to have to pay close attention to letting people into the meeting. So what has happened because of the quote unquote Zoom bombing, many of you know about this, but maybe you don't. USC this week has been having issues with Zoom bombing, which means somebody comes in unauthorized to your session. And this is right in the middle of when our professors are teaching their courses. So immediately, everyone who has a USC authorized Zoom account that is hosting meetings, we are not allowed to send you out a link and then have you automatically get invited and see this Zoom session. So I had to go in and authorize and let you in. So if there are other people that are trying to get in and they don't look like it's your population, then what you can do is click on that person and remove them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, don't they also go into a waiting room? Because I went through this with my IATS person in Roski.
Yes.
And if they're not on the list for USC, they go into a waiting room and then you can allow them in.
That's correct.
I have a question. This is Cal Lau. If we do sign up through the USC or Zoom, we can use that for personal purposes to communicate with family and friends?
Yes.
And it's full featured?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
That is correct. And I can tell you, I'm learning a lot about Zoom, not so much with all of the coaching and the retiree stuff that I'm using, but once a day, 6 days a week, I host a story hour for my grandchildren. And we've got little ones and we have cousins and we have aunts and we have all these people joining in, and some of the problems or issues that we ended up with, and also going to the LA library and showing my screen, I've learned an awful lot. And I would highly recommend that you try this with your family and friends, have virtual meetings, parties, whatever. The purpose of this in particular is to help you all learn how to do it so you can connect with your family and friends while you are at home.
I also just wanted to say I discovered yesterday in a Zoom meeting that even people with USC .edu emails were having trouble, and I will forward Jeanette the screenshots and what you need to do if you do have problems, and then she can maybe post it or email it out to you all. You need to, when you sign in with your USC email, you need to then choose sign in with SSO. And a lot of students have been experiencing issues this week with that when trying to sign on to classes. So just wanted you to know that you, even if you have a USC email, it may put you in the waiting room, is what we discovered yesterday.
Thank you, Katie. And for those of you that don't know Katie, Katie's been an Emeriti Center volunteer, helpmate. She's given courses through the Emeriti Center. She is currently on the board of the staff assembly. She's secretary. She's been on a number of our boards. She's got a gerontology degree. She's a techie, and she's the daughter of Jerry Walker, who is the president of our Retired Faculty Association. So you can see that we've got quite a wonderful group of folks that are really able to help us out. And Katie's been a huge help to us. And thank you, Katie. Looks like Bill's trying to talk.
He is. There he is. I was muted. I already had Zoom on my computer, but then I downloaded the professional one, I assume, from ITS. Mm-hmm. And so does it automatically default over to the higher class one?
I had to do a few things to move from the professional one that I had that we were paying for at the Emeriti Center to move over to the USC one. So I'm going to leave that maybe to Sophia or some of our students to do a one-on-one with you to make sure that that you're all squared away.
I don't, because it doesn't seem to look any different. I don't know whether there's a different screen or not. I don't know.
It does not look any different. It's almost exactly the same. The only thing is you have more options available to you.
Yeah, I didn't see the option to change the background and stuff like that on. But
well, you should be able to change the background. And if all of you take a look at Katie, you want to raise your hand. Katie's got a virtual background that she has set up. And actually, since I'm not presenting today, I will put my virtual background on, which is a picture that I took at USC. So I can pretend like I'm at USC today.
I have something to add to that. When you log into Zoom, there's an option to log in with SSO. And if you click that option, you are prompted to write in your company name, and you would type in USC, and that would bring you to the USC login page. So that's how you can confirm that you are logged in with USC.
I'll try that later. Yeah. Incidentally, yesterday, my church, which has been using Zoom for a lot of stuff, they had a virtual happy hour. And they wanted to test the professional version. They had switched to the professional. And so they got enough of us to log on till they got up to 102 people, and they realized they had the better version now. Because I think the regular version will stop at 100. But it was very interesting. We got 102 people in one Zoom session.
I also understand that the difference between regular Zoom and professional is the amount of time that you can use it.
Exactly.
Right? 45 minutes for regular Zoom and 8 hours for professional. And my computer's too old to put on a background.
Well, actually, you can put the background on through Zoom. If you go to the bottom of your screen, I don't mean to take away from the students, so you can stop me. You go to the bottom of your screen and mouse over, you'll see a microphone, and you'll also see a little image that says stop video. And to the right of that, there is a little up button. If you click on that, and a drop down comes down, and you can do choose virtual background. And then it'll pop up, and I've chosen my own picture, but Zoom we can be in San Francisco, I can be at the beach, I can be in outer space. And so this was just my own picture. So you don't need, even with an older computer.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
I'm trying it now.
So it's really cool. And the one thing about using the USC Zoom is we have the university. It's not a pro, I don't think, but it's a university version. And so we can do more than 100 people. I was on a meeting yesterday with close to 150 people, and we can do longer than an hour.
Right.
I'm now in San Francisco.
That's lovely, Rich. Thank you.
Right.
I have a question. Once I install, let's say, the USC Zoom on my laptop, is it cross-platform? So it's automatically, let's say, on my mobile phone as well?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay. And if I have, let's say I'm in my office and I have computers, desktops there, so I would have to separately install because those aren't necessarily linked.
Correct.
But I could do that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Nikki?
So I have my presentation. Let me try and share my screen right now. Can
Great.
everyone see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to make you aware, if it doesn't come up right away, everyone, don't get too upset about it. It sometimes takes a while for it to upload on various computers.
Okay. I'm just gonna get it ready, and if anyone, let me check if everyone. Can everyone see it? If you can't, please speak up. Okay, it doesn't sound like. Okay, so hi guys. I'll be talking about reliable sources just because, as everyone knows, with this whole pandemic, there's been a lot of false information circulating, and so I just wanted to give you tips as to how to spot fake content. And so I gave a presentation a while ago about fake news, and so I figured I'd use this political cartoon again just because it's funny. It just shows how the differences in opinion when it comes to who decides what's fake and what's real and things like that. And so, yeah, to just keep the mood light. And so today I'll be discussing false information, what fake news is, etc., and then tips as to how you can spot them. And also I'll be providing a list of reliable sources so you know, at least from these people, that the information is accurate. So first we'll be talking about false information. So really quick, I just wanted to take the time to define what fake news is, just because it is such a hot buzz-like word right now, and it has been for the last few years. And so just to keep it consistent throughout this presentation, when I talk about fake news, it just means news articles that are intentionally and verifiably false and could mislead readers. And so when you're defining fake news, it's also important to define what's not fake news. And so with that in mind, I just wanted to share that things that are not fake news include unintentional reporting mistakes. So for example, if a news outlet like the New York Times posts an article, but because in the rush to get it out, they posted false information, that doesn't necessarily mean it's fake news. Like I said in the previous definition, it's also about the intent. So fake news has the intent to mislead readers with intentionally false information. But when news outlets just get the wrong information out just in the rush to get it out, that does not necessarily mean it's fake news. And so with that in mind, we also have rumors that don't originate from a news article. So with like the COVID-19 like pandemic, the ones I've been hearing a lot is like, drink water every 15 minutes, ibuprofen is bad for you. If you're hot all the time, it'll keep the virus away. And so those are like rumors, aren't necessarily like fake news either, they're just rumors. And then conspiracy theories, obviously that's self-explanatory. They're just theories, not really based on facts or credible information. False statements by politicians, I feel like that's also self-explanatory. And also satire. Satire is just, can you guys see my cursor if I move it? Yeah? No?
Yes.
Okay. So with satire, there's a lot of obviously late night shows that poke fun or like play jokes. It doesn't necessarily mean that the show as a whole is a fake resource or a fake source of information. Rather, the satire is just poking fun at things and shouldn't be taken completely seriously. And so the whole point of this conversation that we're having is because people are always looking for news that confirms what they believe rather than the facts. And so especially now, it's a very scary time, and it's very easy to have people be vulnerable to false information, especially because everyone is obviously trying to stay healthy. So they're trying to find the best ways to do that. And whatever, especially in this situation where we don't have a lot of control, whatever control we do have, people try to use fake or false information as an outlet to like take control of the situation, if that makes sense. So if, for example, if I believed in the hot water thing, or like being hot and like drinking water all the time, that's just something I always do. But there's also more terrible repercussions if I fully lean into that. And so the consequences of false information is really important just because if false information keeps getting circulated, it's all of our jobs, especially with all of us. Obviously, we're all using the internet to be on Zoom. So as every one of us are digital users, we have to be mindful of the kind of information we're sharing with each other, because we all have our own reach and our own sphere of people that we can influence and share that information with. So we have to be careful of our own, at least we all have our own responsibility to make sure that the information that we're sharing is true. Just because if people have less accurate beliefs, they can or if they have completely wrong beliefs, it can negatively impact your health. And especially since this is a serious time, our health is more important now more than ever. And so, like I said, things that I had seen circulate have been certain drugs are good for treatment for the coronavirus, or drinking hot water, or breathing. I saw a thing about breathing exercises where if you could hold your breath, it's a sign that you don't have coronavirus, but that's not true. But so it's just things like that have been circulating, and with it just comes with different like consequences if we truly believe in that and truly hold on to that false information. And because of us holding on to this kind of information, it makes us more skeptical of reliable sources and news producers to the extent that the people who need to hear it will have a hard time distinguishing what's true and what's not, and will just, like, as we've been seeing, completely just not trust news altogether and completely just disregard all news sources who are just trying their best, at least credible news sources like reputable, like BBC News, like New York Times, Washington Post, things like that. Obviously, the more traditional journalistic publications, people won't trust in them if we keep circulating bad like information and just continue feeding into this growing mistrust in that industry. Sorry, I have a cough, so excuse me if I cough throughout this presentation. So these are my tips. So when you're looking at an article, it's really important to first think about, when you look at it, I'm going to go out of order here. When you look at the article, at the top, there's usually the URL bar, and you have to check whether it has a trustworthy domain name, which means that I've seen articles for things like sciencenews.com, or like there's people out there who make websites something like abcnews.co versus like abcnews.com, and make their website look just like the ABC News website, so they can trick people into reading their articles like right off the bat, because they're like, oh, this looks similar enough. But that really small difference can be a distinguishing factor to determine whether something is true, or whether a source is credible, and whether something has been created specifically to spread false information. And so with that in mind, first check if the domain name is correct. So .com, .gov, .org, those are the handles that I'll generally trust the most, just because at least with those, oh, and .edu. So if I had to rank it, I would do .gov, .edu, .org, and then .com. But things like .co, I wouldn't even like take another look at it, just because that's a fake, or at least that's a domain name that you don't really trust or shouldn't trust, just because it's not a legitimate domain. And so with that in mind, in the articles, like, for example, if they're gonna quote someone being like, oh, Dr. So-and-so from this university, oh wait, sorry, I think I hit, my computer just froze. Okay, whatever, it's fine. So with named sources, I'll just stay on this slide for a second. So named sources, if it doesn't have them, probably fake. So if there is a claim on the news article that's like, oh, ibuprofen is bad for you for the coronavirus, and there's no source backing that up, then it's probably fake. Because an easy trick to do is just quickly Google it, be like, this claim is actually kind of weird. Like, let me see really quick, make sure it's legit. So you would just Google like ibuprofen coronavirus, and usually fact-checking sites would be up already with that. But anyway, so if there's name sources, Google the name, but if it doesn't, don't even bother with the article, because credible, reputable websites and news sources will link their sources. It's like in any academic setting. You always, if you're going to make an argument, or if you're going to say something that's not common knowledge, then you have to cite it so people can see where you got that information. So it's the same concept here. And so specifically, if there's a claim with a hyperlink, which is when in the news article, if it's like highlighted or like in a different color and underlined, that usually means it's hyperlinked. Click on the link and check if it goes to a reliable source, which I'll mention later. But just click on it to see, like in an academic setting, see where they got that information from, and then determine for yourself.
Nikki?
Yeah.
Just an FYI, Especially with all the hoaxes and all the bad things that are happening right now, people are being taken advantage of. A lot of times what I do is just take my mouse and hover over it, because when you take your mouse and slightly hover over it, it will show you what the link looks like. And sometimes it's not the same. You don't ever want to click on that.
Oh, true. Exactly. Like what Dr. Brown said, be careful about clicking on links. But yeah, if you hover over the hyperlink, I forgot you can do that. If you hover over the hyperlink, you can see what the link will look like. And sometimes your computer will give you a preview as to what it'll look like, because sometimes mine does that. Then you'll be able to see where you're going or where you'll be going to next. And so you just reminded me of something I wanted to discuss, but I didn't make a slide for it, but I'll talk about it later. And then just overall common sense.
One more thing about the link. If you hover over it and it doesn't show you what it is, instead of clicking on it, highlight it and copy it and paste it into your browser. And then that way you'll be more secure as well, rather than clicking on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so.
I have another tip to offer. This is Cal Lau. When I'm looking at something, either in an email or online, I can highlight it and right click on the mouse, and that you can open up a Google window, so you don't have to copy paste it. You can just directly, like if I don't know the definition of that word, you just highlight it, right click, and then open Google, and it'll open up a separate window. And then once you close that, you'll go back to your original document. It's really helpful.
That's great. Thanks, Cal.
Thank you. I'm learning more stuff too. That's awesome. Just to continue what I was saying, if it sounds outlandish, Google the headline, because if it's like even if it sounds outlandish, but it turns out to be real, lots of news outlets would report on it. So if you only see a couple of people, or at least a couple of sources when you Google it come up, then it doesn't seem that credible. But if a lot of people are reporting on it, then even though it does sound outlandish, it just might be true, just because with this day and age, like lots of crazy things have happened. And so that's a good way of checking whether it's actually true or not, because if lots of people are reporting on it, lots of reputable news organizations are reporting on it, then there's a good chance that it's real and you can believe that. So and also to note, like, even if you don't trust politically biased news outlets, for the most part, a lot of them have a very like basic sense of they have to be accurate with the information that they're communicating. And especially with the coronavirus, a lot of the news outlets are reporting on public health. And so even if they are of different like political biases, if more of them are still reporting on it, then there's a very strong chance that it is true and should be taken seriously. And then also, if there's parts of the stories that they cite in the false information or whatever, like post or news article or whatever thing it is on the internet, if you see it sounds crazy and they're citing like, oh, the CDC said so, then Google the CDC and whatever the claim is and check for yourself. And there's a good chance that the right or wrong answer will come up in the search engine. And then if you're really not sure, visit fact-checking websites such as Snopes and PolitiFact. And then so 3, reliable sources. So these are the reliable sources that I've been depending on when it comes to the coronavirus. Every time I see a new health problem or like a new health claim in regards to this issue, if I immediately Google that claim and either CDC or WHO. So the World Health Organization, they're on top of the whole, at least the global aspect of the coronavirus and the efforts to contain it. But there's also the United Nations. They're working on providing information on their websites. The CDC is the US Department of like the agency that we have that is in charge of our health or anything related to health. And then if you're in the UK, I don't know where everyone is from here, but also I just put a just here just in case. The UK has the National Health Service, and they're a good source too. And then for European news and reporting, or at least information regarding their situation with the coronavirus. And then I'm not sure if most of you are from California, but California has been on top of keeping our citizens like updated when it comes to the virus. And so the California Department of Public Health, they're a really good source as to information on the situation. And they have a website, which I've shown here, covid19.ca.gov. We'll be posting this presentation and a longer recorded version of this online. So don't worry about trying to write down this link. But if you want to have it for now, you can. But this will be posted on the Emeriti Center website after I'm done with the presentation.
Can I add one other comment? It's Cal Lau.
Yeah.
Any of us who have been watching the news or listening to the president's task force, the person, Dr. Anthony Fauci, he's very credible. He's the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. So he's right on top of stuff. He's got decades of experience and knowledge, and he answers all the questions about the straightforward word on whether or not they're going to have this or that ready. So Fauci is the go-to person. If you ever hear him, he's doing stuff sometimes live on TV, and whatever he says is the latest word. So he's a very reliable source. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. Every time he comes on, it's such a relief. I'm just like, yes, some logic here. Anyway, and then finally, esteemed universities and research groups. And so I just wanted to share with social media. This is a screenshot that I've taken as an example. So with social media, clearly that's the easiest way for us to circulate false information. And I don't want this to be like, oh, don't believe everything on your Facebook feed, because when it comes to it, it's just a lot of common sense, and you can use social media as a tool to stay informed when it comes to this pandemic. Just because a lot of the government agencies and a lot of the sources that I had just listed, they're using social media as the fastest way to fact check, to release new information, to keep everyone updated, just because that's just the easiest way, since everyone, or at least a lot of people, are on this. And so some common sense, like other tips I have for social media: if you see someone on your feed post an article and you're like not really sure about it, or if you're going to share something, I recommend reading the article first, just because if you're scrolling through your feed and the headline is glaring and is super clickbaity, so clickbait means it's so catchy that it just attracts people's attention altogether. Just because something has a really compelling headline doesn't automatically, or shouldn't automatically, warrant for you to share it. If you're going to share something, I highly recommend reading through it first to make sure you're sharing accurate information with your family and friends, just because we all trust each other to share information, and we all should strive to share accurate information. And so with social media, I highly recommend following pages like the California Department of Public Health, with the California, the governor's Facebook page. On Twitter, especially, they're quick about posting live responses to events that are happening, whether it's like press conferences, live streams from different politicians. Social media is where you will find that information, and how you will stay informed with the right government officials, agencies, and global organizations like the WHO. So I really recommend, because everyone is using social media, or at least a lot of people are shifting over to technology to stay connected with their loved ones. I highly recommend at least liking a few of these pages, following a few of your favorite news organizations on social media, just so you can get regular, credible updates, and hopefully it will balance out whatever promoted or false information or rumors that do come up on your feeds. Or if that does come up in your feed, then those sources will quickly, a lot of them have been pretty vigilant about fact checking the rumors that come out. So I highly recommend using social media to stay informed. and gather all that information in one place. That's how I keep it all organized, essentially, just because it's hard to. I have news apps on my phone, but it's hard to keep clicking between every single like app to read the news. So it's nice to go on my feed. And because I follow news organizations and because I don't use Facebook as much. I use Twitter more. So I follow the California Public Health account since this whole thing has started. And it's been nice to see, because especially within the last week, for whoever lives in California, it's like every day they post new restrictions or they post new like updates to the virus. And so they've been very clear about the expectations that they have for our citizens. And so I don't know how much time we have.
Nikki, that's great information. May I add just one other piece? Whenever I get, let's say, a text message or an email that says something, I always ask myself, what is the source? If I can't verify it from a valid and verifiable source, I won't believe it. I actually have to go back to the originator and verify it that way. So what you said, fact checking, is so important in today's world. Thank you so much, Nikki.
No problem. And adding on to that, something that has happened too, just because I've had this instance with a friend where we were just catching up and he was telling me about like, oh, I'm worried about the coronavirus, but I'm not that worried because they found out that you can treat it with malaria drugs. And I was just like, what? And so I had him forward me the email that his dad had sent to their whole family. And I had gone through their whole family email thread, and it was quite a long one, just to find the original email that was sent out to them. And then when I clicked on the link, it was to like a fake website, essentially. And I was just, I felt so bad, but I had to tell him that, hey, there has been some research, but one small concentrated research group isn't going to be the basis for a whole global movement towards using these drugs. Like you have to like look into your sources more. I essentially had to tell him that. And it's just hard because this is a hard time. People are going to hold on to information like that to stay comforted because they're like, oh, it's going to blow over soon. But it's more important for people to know the truth versus holding on to things that are false, because it could be dangerous to their health if they're taking the wrong medicines or the wrong drugs or the drugs that are wrong for them. So yeah, so I recommend, like what Dr. Lau said, to check the original source in emails or texts. And yeah, so I think that's it. I can take questions, but we can also do this exercise. So if anyone wants to do this exercise, we can, but otherwise I'm here to take questions.
I had one other comment. On my commute here, where I am now, they had the news conference where the governor and the mayor and then the captain, the commander of the ship from San Diego, the Mercy, were being interviewed live. And that was amazing to hear that information and the resources that Los Angeles will have for hospitalizing people. So all of that is all breaking news. And unless you're really tuned into that, you're not getting the latest information. That changes by the minute and second almost, because they expect to have that ship functional. They're going to go through testing tonight and they'll have it functional tomorrow so that the hospitals can focus on the COVID-19 people, and then they could take care of other types of resources elsewhere. And my dental association is asking for volunteers to help out in our area of expertise. So I have another way I can channel my knowledge and energies as well. So all of us have special attributes that we can contribute to society if we're willing. So thank you again.
No problem. Let me try to exit out of this presentation, because I would like to at least take us to the state website, because it's COVID-19. So, okay. So this is the California state's website on everything coronavirus. And so I check this pretty much daily. And especially since I follow the governor and the public health department and other agencies, they do live stream the press conferences and things like that. So like what Dr. Lau was saying, it was live streamed over social media. You don't have to watch the news for it. You can just access it online. And a lot of news organizations, I think like the New York Times and Washington Post, they're making all their coronavirus coverage free for everyone so they can have access to that information. And so with this website, I just wanted to share really quick that they have very clear sections and instructions for this whole situation. So they have a list of do's, they have a list of don'ts, they have an easily manageable like website where you can like find the symptoms, how you can get testing, get help, and how you can volunteer and support organizations that are working the front lines for COVID-19. And so I highly recommend, if you have the time, to go through this website if you need any of that information, just because it's a valuable tool. So I'm essentially done. If there's anything you guys want to ask me, go for it, but I can take it over, or at least like hand it back to Dr. Brown.
Any questions?
I have a question. I heard today that, they're really wanting everyone to stay home, but yet I'm wondering if it's okay to go out and walk my dogs as long as you stay away from other people. I assume that we can still do that.
Oh, yeah. So you can go outside and walk your dog. So what they're doing is that with the stay-at-home order, they're essentially closed all the non-essential businesses. So you can still go to the grocery store, you can still go to the pharmacy, but you can also still go outside. They recommend going outside, but also practicing common sense social distancing. And so, for example, last weekend they had, or at least last week, they kept encouraging people to go outside, to go to the park or go hiking or go to the beach. But last weekend, so many people went to those places and the parking lots were full. And so people couldn't actually exercise social distancing. So what they had to do was close those lots. So essentially, my point of the story is just that if you see a lot of people in a general area, don't go there. If you see there's a store that has, or at least if you're trying to go to a park or you're trying to go somewhere and you see lots of cars parked there, it's a pretty good sign that there's a lot of people in that general area and you should stay away. But they still recommend they still recommend people can go outside and go take a walk as long as you stay away from other people as you do it. And so parks are still open, trails are still open, but I believe it's just their parking lots that are closed to encourage people to go to the park, but you have to walk to the park.
Vicki, I live in Manhattan Beach, and they've closed down the Strand, all the parking lots, the Strand and the beach. You can't go on any of it, supposedly. Now, how that's going to be enforced, I don't know. And then the parks throughout the city are all closed also.
Right.
So you got to walk on the streets.
I think they're just doing that to prevent people from gathering, because what I've been seeing is that, at least last weekend, it was so dumb. I've been seeing people that I know, they're like, oh, we can also go to the park and hang out if we all just stand 6 feet away from each other. But the whole point is, if you wanted to go take a solitary or like with a loved one, whoever you're with in quarantine, if you wanted to go take a walk outside in your neighborhood, you're completely free to do so as long as you stay away from other people. You shouldn't be using the public spaces to try to find a loophole in seeing other people, just because for the most part, this is a temporary stay at home, stay isolated from other people. If you have family, obviously stay inside for the sake of yourself and everyone else, because you don't know who you'll get in contact with. But they do recommend, they say that you can still go walk your dog. That was the original question. You can go walk your dog if you wanted to, just as long as if you see someone on the street, try to keep 6 feet away.
Thank you. My dog growls at other dogs, so everyone crosses the street when they see us.
That's cute.
She's into social
I have a similar problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go out and do some walking or you'll go bananas.
Yeah. I've had friends who they just walk around their neighborhood, and generally people are inside, and if they have like encountered people on the sidewalk, I've like sometimes whenever I've like gone on a walk, if I see someone's coming, I'll just stop walking and try to like kind of move away so that when they do pass by, we're still pretty far from each other and like make way for each other. So because I'm not trying to get close to you and you're not trying to get close to me. So yeah, as long as you do things like that, it's still safe to go outside. They recommend going for some fresh air because it's hard to be at home all the time, and they understand that.
Well, thank you, Nikki. That was very professionally done. Thank you very much for updating it, because I know that you did this something similar about, well, it was about a year and a half ago for an in-person workshop. So that was great. And what I would like to do, and unless Leanne, do you have other things that you would like to discuss?
No, I don't have anything in particular.
Okay. The last time that we were online, we did a poll. And for many of you that were on the last poll, we had 28 last time, we have 25 today. And we have different people that come on every week, so it's really interesting. They wanted to know, they wanted to have more intergenerational conversations. And one of the things I would like to do is invite our students to give you an update about how they feel about their first week of classes after spring break. And what is it like? What are the classes like? What are some of the things you're experiencing? Because I know that the ones that are online right now are at home with their families. So whoever would like to go first. Okay, Nikki, I choose you.
So with me, this sounds, it's been kind of hard just because I know everyone else is having a harder time with it, but I don't want to sound like I'm totally fine. But at least for this last week, because I'm a public relations major, a lot of my classes are upper division core classes for my major. And so with public relations, essentially a lot of our work has always been computer based and has always been writing based or content making. And so my classes have been going pretty smoothly, and especially since with the way that the program is designed, most of my classes just meet once a week for a few hours. And so it's been good, I think, overall. And it was really nice to have that first set of classes before spring break to get used to it. So by the time we came back, we already were comfortable with it, versus I've talked to my friends from other universities and they're like, oh my gosh, how do you use Zoom? But I've already used Zoom for the last few weeks now. So it's been nice to have that experience. And overall, the professors have been really patient and really considerate when it comes to the workload and deadlines, and projects had to be reconfigured because a lot of it had to be like in-person based, or it had to be like networking opportunities or whatever. And they understood that with the pandemic that a lot of the projects weren't realistic anymore. And so I think it's been a really good overall, at least on Annenberg's side, transition to Zoom sessions and online sessions, and at least changing the expectations without sacrificing the quality of the education. So
that's great. What about you, Hannah?
For me, I think it's just been a little different. Personally, I don't really work well at home because there's so many like distractions, and it's like my comfort space, so it's kind of hard to focus. But like it's just the situation that I'm in, and I just have to work around that. And also, since everyone from my family, except for my mom, we're all at home, it's kind of hard to find like a private space. But besides that, I also agree with Nikki on the fact that like all of my professors, they've been super flexible, and they've been working around like these changes, and they're really understanding of everything. But yeah, as a film major though, it's kind of hard to do it online. I took like one class that like we were on a studio, but like since we're all at home, like now we're doing everything on Zoom, and basically what we're doing is that we're just like talking to like different guests who've been in the industry. So that's been really helpful, but yeah.
Yeah, that's hard. How about you, Leanne?
I actually had my first exam yesterday on Zoom. It was 130 of us trying to take the exam. So what we did was we all logged on to Zoom and we had to turn on our webcams, and our professor would check if our face matches our name throughout the exam. And so we had a bit of an issue yesterday because our professor thought he uploaded the exam on Blackboard, and so he was going to just say, "Oh, good luck on the exam," and then he almost left Zoom, and so we were all going to be stranded without an exam to take. And he had an issue with Zoom in that he turned off his mic, so he couldn't hear us, but we could hear him. So it was 130 of us screaming at him to upload the exam, but he couldn't hear us. And so the exam was supposed to start at 12. Which that didn't happen, but we all got it sorted out, and then there were different versions of the exam, and each version of the exam got uploaded at a different time. And so half of us would say, "Oh, our exam has started," and we would log on to take the exam, while the other half were still waiting for the exam. And there's some people who take the exam with extra time, and what ended up happening for them was our professor had to send them via email an Excel sheet for them to enter their answers in because he couldn't figure out how to upload the exam online. But yeah, that was an interesting experience.
Yeah, all the professors are learning for sure. And we only have a few minutes left. I wanted to make sure that, that you all knew that you can email me personally, jcbrown@usc.edu, with any ideas or suggestions, and also web links that are really important. I'm going to see if I can do a poll quickly. And I just want to see what your interests are right now. So I'm going to run it right now. And if it's possible for you to get on and click on any of the topics that we have listed here. I don't know if you're able to do that or not, but you take a look, please. And this will give our students a better idea of what to be focusing on in our next session, and which is really interesting to me. So look at how many, I don't know if you can see it live or not, but I will definitely, in just about a minute or less, I will end the polling so that you can see the results. Right now, the top ones are student perspectives and discussion and intergenerational discussion. So I find that really interesting, especially since we had such great success with our Zoomers to Boomers diversity panel, showing the different perspectives. So, okay, so it looks like everybody's pretty much finished. Well, 15 out of 21 people voted, 80%. So I'll give you just a couple more seconds and then I will post the results. Okay, there we go. So here are the results, which seems to be quite, quite consistent. The intergenerational discussions and the student perspective. So students, as I've said before, you're the stars. We really appreciate all your hard work and effort, especially going through these stressful times and all the stuff that you have to do, and yet they're still leading the charge and doing some really great work behind the scenes. So I'm going to end this session with thanking you all for joining us. If you have others that would like to join us in the future, please do. We're focused on every Friday at 2 o'clock with the same Zoom session and code. And those of you that have to get off the line, please feel free to get off the line. And any of you that have any questions for me, I will stay on the line for another a little bit of time and answer any other questions or that kind of thing. So again, thank you everyone. Really appreciate you joining us. And hopefully we'll see you again at 2 o'clock next Friday.